At this point in my career, which has been just a wonderful journey for me, one of the things I decided to do was kind of get my thoughts down and kind of talk about the journey, both technology and business over the last 50 years. I joined this industry with IBM in 1966 when things were wired boards, mainframes, 1401s, and it was very complex technology. Over that period of time, the technology journey has been spectacular to where, everything's digital, everything's always on, cell phones work from all over the globe. It's just been just a phenomenal thing to watch in the 43 years that I was in the IT world. In addition to that, the technicians and the ability of the technicians has really matured phenomenally. Whenever you used to find a dozen people that were really good at building things in any one firm, it was a big deal. Now there are millions of developers that are very well skilled, and the combination of the technology and the technologists has never been better, yet the maturity of the IT leadership and management has not matured as rapidly, and company and enterprise's ability to absorb it, use it, and have it really be transformational just has not professionalized at this point. And it's not just the CIO and the CIO's staff, but it's the whole executive team. It's not a big part of their vocabulary, and in fact, it's what I call a blind spot. Right? When you talk to most senior executives, they have a phenomenal feel for finance, whether they're financial people or not, operations, whether they're operational people or not, marketing, sales, legal, all of the functions of a business except IT, which is a blind spot. My belief is that IT is actually much less complicated to understand than all of the finance regulations and complexity of doing business in 80 or 90 countries. And yet it's not something that's matured as a body of knowledge so that a leader can really influence and shape the IT strategy. So when I sat down to write a book of my experiences, it was really around a framework that I've used over the last 30 years as a CIO, as an operating person, to have a dialogue both within the executive team, but also with frontline employees and also with IT professionals. And it's this language or this framework that's been missing from any, common way of doing things across all different enterprises. There are standards for managing an operation in IT, there are standards for doing development, but there's no standard way of communicating and having a good, rich business IT dialogue, right? And it's not that complicated, but it is something that, most people struggle with. And one of the reasons that it's not that complicated, it really only has a few pieces to it. One is, why do anything at all, right? I mean, you got to have a business reason for why invest, why change, why, do anything that might be transformational to your business. It could be competitors, it could be, regulation, it could be just the size, a series of acquisitions without the merger. There needs to be an important business reason to change. Once that exists, there needs to be a clear dialogue around what to change to, right? What is your business model of the future? Is it centralized? Is it decentralized? Is it what is the cost structure? What do your customer base look like? And really, it's what gives you customer intimacy and what gives you leverage, because centralization and decentralization are terms that are industrial era terms. Things were decentralized when they got too big because there were no communication lines. There were no distribution lines. As the world changed, mostly because of technology, it became less of a reason to decentralize. Yet the model of decentralization gave you better customer intimacy in your marketplace. When you centralize that, you lose that customer touch. So as you transition into the 21st century, the business model of the future has more to do with what gives you leverage and reach. The idea behind this, what gives me leverage, is my supply chain, my manufacturing. Generally, it's operations of some sort. What gives me customer intimacy is how I face the market, right? How do I deal with global customers differently than regional customers, differently than local customers? And all of that model needs to be thought through as companies look to change their business environment. None of that has anything to do at this point with IT. I didn't use IT once in that conversation, so why change and what to change to is a business dialogue that the CIO needs to engage in, but the CEO and the rest of the executive team needs to be an important part of that dialogue. You get into now how to change. That is a combination of IT and how do you migrate and modernize your systems and processes to achieve your current state to the future state journey. And as importantly, how do you change the culture and the metrics of the organization and the incentives, right? Otherwise, you're going to continuously get friction between functions, between geographies, and between the different parts of the organization.